Hey everybody, it's playoff time and the road to Vegas goes through San Francisco and Baltimore. And BetOnline is your number one source for playoff football odds, stats, trends, and line. What's up, y'all? It's your man Lloyd Spence. And listen, with everything from points, spreads to hundreds of player performance props, you need to go over there to BetOnline. They got everything you need. Head over to BetOnline today. Stay updated on all the action. It's BetOnline. It's where the game starts. Tell them we sent you.
Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Yeah.
Can I make you move now? Yes, I can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. You can make it round the world and the holes in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. It's a popcorn world. It's a popcorn world.
You're now listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward, Wave 3 TV, and Burn Creek Hall of Famer Kendrick Haskins, and Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course Mama Noise's name, Lloyd Spence. And now, it's time for BLEAV in the ACC.
My morning has officially been made because I got a chance to see the great Kendrick Haskins dance in the popcorn world behind the scenes. My morning's already been made. I saw him back there.
I did that just for you.
Charlie, he was getting it.
Was he doing the pop?
He was popping. In my mind, I said he need to go take that on the road. I like it.
Popcorn world. It just takes over the soul.
Popcorn world. It does. It takes over your soul. That's very true. And just like BLEAV in the ACC, it takes over your screen right now. We're glad to be here with you. The great dancing machine Kendrick Haskins is here. Charlie Ward. I don't know if Charlie Ward dances or not. He might. He never danced in the end zone when he scored. I never saw you dance. Do you dance, Charlie?
No, I was a Debbie Downer or Lamer, whatever you want to call it. I was the one that gave the football to the referee.
You're a like
you've been there before.
You're Barry Sanders. Here you go, sir. Thank you for allowing me to run this towards you.
Hey, thanks for your participation.
That's fine. We all got our own thing. It's fine. We all got a thing. Me, I'm a skit guy. We're gonna put a skit together, like a whole full production.
like the Dolphins.
Right. We'll put the whole skit together. We've worked on this for weeks.
I love the celebrations, but it does crack me up to think that these grown men take that much time out of their day during the practice week to come up with a dance when they score.
Oh, man. I mean, think about it intensely. Like, first of all, you're moving the wrong way. You need to go left. I'll go right. You see what I'm saying?
Like Tyreek Hill's like Paula Abdul.
Like, y'all got nothing else to do this week? Like, what are you...
Like all these football players, all of a sudden Debbie Allen, the world's greatest choreographers.
nothing like seeing a 350-pound dancer. Football players are the Lizzos of
shout out Christian Watkins.
There you go. All right, let's get into this thing. We're glad to be here with you today. Man, as you can see, we're in a great mood. And it's not hard to be when you're watching some great stuff on TV. You're watching great sports, man. This is the greatest time of the year. Everything is good. College basketball is rolling. The NFL is at its height. Hell, even if you like the WWE, that was fantastic this weekend. It was really good. So it's just a wonderful time in the world of sports right now. And nowhere else is that true than women's college basketball. Women's college basketball right now is like the 5th season of Breaking Bad. You know, this is escalating to something really legendary, and it's been super good. You got a young lady in Caitlin Clark who is playing maybe the highest level of basketball we've ever seen in women's college basketball because she's about to break the scoring record. And I think now this is where I get confused. Is she number 2 all-time scorer for women or number 2 all-time scorer? She's number 2 all-time scorer, right? Or is this the record that was held by Kelsey Plum?
I think she's the number 2 all-time women's scorer.
Oh, the women's scorer.
I could be wrong. I think she's number 1.
Sometimes they'll put the women's scorer, and sometimes they won't, which I get it because I think they're trying to send a subtle message or whatever.
Well, Angel McCautry is the all-time leading scorer, period, at U of L.
Okay, so I think it's all-time women's score, but still, quite an impressive display she's putting on right now. I heard some interesting shade the other day. Did y'all hear that? That Cheryl Swoop said this is great for college women's basketball, but that game ain't gonna translate next year to the WNBA. Did y'all hear that one?
I didn't hear that, but come on.
That is some interesting.
I don't think every part of her game currently translates, but I think shooting is shooting, right?
I was going to say, I don't remember an era of basketball where shooting didn't translate.
I was going to say shooting should translate, I would think.
It usually does, especially when you can shoot from anywhere on the floor. That's kind of like, I remember Zion's, his 1 year at Duke, and they played Kentucky, and they game up in Indianapolis when they beat Kentucky by like 100.
Uh-huh.
And Scott Pollard, of all people, was sitting right behind me as I'm shooting the game.
Right.
And at one point, he said that Zion Williamson's game won't translate to the NBA. And I'm like, sir? Someone powerful and strong that can jump out of the gym usually translates. And
yeah, it's translated. It just hasn't sustained. It has translated.
Yeah,
that is
when he's healthy, it's translated very well.
Right. When he's healthy and underweight, he's
never been that.
Right.
But when he's been healthy,
it's fine.
Last year was what? They was either first or second in the Western Conference last year.
They were first or second in the Western. Yeah, they played well. So I'm not sure what he meant by Scott Pollard meant by that. I'm not sure what Cheryl Swoops means by that. I'd have to read. Obviously, it was a pull quote for an article, so I'd have to read the entire context what she meant by that.
Yeah, but maybe she meant defensively or something.
Well, listen, Caitlin ain't known for her defense. She's an okay defender, but she's gonna get cooked. That's just how it is. When you first, and that's how it is in any professional league.
When you move up in any level of
basketball. Like listen. Well, I was gonna say any sport period. Like it's just there's an adjustment from what you've seen in the minors or the college ranks to what you see in the pros. So
I think she's gonna be perfectly fine.
I think she'll be okay too. I'm not that concerned. I know Cheryl seemed a bit miffed by her, but I think the rest of us are like, she'll be okay. So with that being said, we're looking at the potential of something really great here coming down the stretch. I can honestly say I don't know who the best team in college women's college basketball is. I can't say
I think
You
it's
could-
pretty obvious in South Carolina.
No, see, I knew you were gonna do that.
They
I
won
don't know
at
if it is
LSU.
obvious. You think it's who?
They won at LSU.
Yeah, but okay, but to me, LSU has some obvious holes.
I do agree with you there. I've got a feeling that LSU may not make it to the Final Four.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
I've got a feeling that LSU may not make it to the Final Four. To be honest, I can see them getting knocked off beforehand.
That's what I'm
It
saying.
feels like
So
they've got chemistry problems. But
They've got
that being said, South Carolina does have the best win so far this season.
well, yeah. I mean, listen.
When you
I won't
factor
take
in
that-
the environment there and all that stuff.
Right, I won't take that part from them because that's a good win, regardless of whether LSU is LSU or not. But I'm gonna say this: I've watched South Carolina play, and they appear to be really, really good. Like they look like the team to beat. But their middle can be dominated.
Exposed a little
Like
bit,
I'm this ain't one thing that you find out real quick in this game. That ain't Aaliyah Boston.
right.
She's good. The young lady is good, and I forget her name.
Cardoza.
Cardoso. Yeah, she's very good, but she's not dominant in any way. She's just tall. She's really tall, and she gets to the ball decently. But she doesn't have the physicality of Boston. She doesn't have she does have the touch. I like her touch around the basket. But there's just something that's not quite the same. And when you're tall against weaker opponents, it doesn't matter. But when you're tall against equal or greater value opponents, and there's some bigs out there that I think are better, this could get interesting real fast. So I don't know if they're the best team in women's college basketball. And I say that to say also, maybe the best team in women's college basketball is in the ACC, because there are 6 teams for sure that are going to make the tournament, and all of them have great components to go win and make a run. Every single one of them. So the grading for this one was kind of weird to me, because you almost had to lump everybody into sections, and this is the A section, and then this is the B section, and I don't know. And I think there's probably some obvious C and D, but they're not like most of the teams in the ACC are getting an A and a B, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, it's definitely one of the stronger conferences in the country this year. I think it's pretty much between them and the SEC. I just want to give a quick. I know we're not doing shout out, so I do want to give a quick shout out to my boy Sam Purcell, head coach at Mississippi State. Was a long time assistant at U of L. Actually coached Haley Van Lith when she was here.
Yeah.
And shout out to Mississippi State for pulling off that big upset, their first top 10 victory under Sam Purcell when they knocked off LSU the other night.
Yeah.
So, and when you talk about one of the great characters in college basketball, I'll wait till he gets that thing rolling.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because Sam Purcell is a hilarious person. So I can't wait to see them get it rolling so the whole country can see the person that we know. And he's players are going to want to go play for him, because he's just a great person, and he's funny, and he can relate to the younger generation. So watch out for Mississippi State rest of this season, and then going forward the rest of the season.
So let's take a look at what the conference right now as a whole, which I'm going to be honest with you. If you'd have told me that Louisville would be sitting atop the conference at the beginning of the year, I wouldn't have thought you were crazy, but I wouldn't have believed you either.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Because it's just it was entirely too much turnover. You lose a massive piece like Haley Van Lith, and you think, well, surely you're going to take some steps back. But I'll be honest with you, I think in a lot of ways, they're much better. I know they're better defensively than they were last year for sure. But they may also be just overall better, because you can't really key in on a particular part like you could last year. And everybody else seems that sharing of the wealth, if you will, is paying massive dividends. So I got to give my man Jeff an A, right? I got to give him an A, maybe even an A plus for turning the roster over as well as he did. And they look good. They look good. What would you say on that one?
So they play Syracuse tonight, so they have a huge test at home tonight.
That'd be good.
It is different. I asked him yesterday. It's like, what's the difference in coaching a team that's more, where the points and shots are more evenly distributed than they were when you have, like a Haley Van Lith or an Angel McCautry and things like that. And he said the biggest thing is for the players to have the confidence to take shots, taking open shots, and not used to necessarily being in that role, especially down the stretch of games. Then, of course, Jeff had to be Jeff. And then he goes on to say, take shots that you practice and then don't come down and try to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when you haven't shot a hook shot your whole career.
Right.
But he loves coaching his team. And like I said, it's a whole different thing. I mean, and shout out to him because you used to Jeff Wallace having that marquee player, and they don't have
it's
that
not there
standout.
Yeah.
They don't have that standout 20-point a game scorer, but anybody can score for that team. And they've had a number of different leading scorers in games. And Sydney Taylor, she's had her games, and Kiki Jefferson's had her games where she's gone off. And so Kiki Jefferson had a huge game against Boston College last week, and so. I think it does make them a little bit more difficult to guard because you don't know who's going to go off on a given night. And he was talking about Jada Curry, by the way. Talking about don't go in there being Kareem if you're Jada Curry.
Right. But you know what the elephant in the room of this year's team is, and I hate to be the one to say it, but I'm going to say it. They seem to like each other a lot. They seem to like each other, and they seem to want to be out there to play together.
I think they've liked each other. I don't think that's necessarily been a problem. I mean, it's hard to make the run that they did last year if they didn't like each other.
But I said a lot though. This is different because I think last year they respected each other, and they knew what they had to do, so they got along enough to play together. This team looks like they go to beer nose together, they've sat in a beer nose and ate pizza. And laughed or they sat in the dorm room together and done stupid TikToks and just like they look like
you see them along. You see them at different events together. You don't just see one; you'll see a group of them. I think having
that matters though.
I think having Mikasa over on the bench does help.
That carryover. Coach Junior, how much does that matter that a team has off-court chemistry coming down the stretch of a season? How much does that matter? Or does it matter?
I mean, it does. It does matter to have chemistry off the court as well as on. Plays a big part in just how you can talk to one another because you understand where they're coming from. But also, you need to have players. I mean.
Right, you gotta have
chemistry. It's great to have chemistry, but if you don't have no players that can make plays,
really matter.
You like each other all you want.
Yeah. So I mean, chemistry is good, and that's part of the chemistry is each one understanding what they do well, and their teammates playing to their strengths. If you have a shooter, let's find ways to get her open. Or get him open, not necessarily a play call. I mean, you could do that, but let's find a way to set a flare screen when the ball's on the weak side, or when everyone's eyes on the basketball. Set a quick pin down. If you have if someone's supposed to be rebounding, that's what they do well. I mean, you need to go to the offensive glass, consistently. And just trying to find what I mean by we have a thing now called a 9 to 5 and 5, which is, the 5% is what you do with the basketball. Most times, this was Billy Donovan. I think it's Billy Donovan that came up with this. No, it wasn't Billy Donovan. Who's the coach at Florida for a long time?
Billy Donovan
was in the pros.
Yeah, Billy Donovan.
Oh, Billy Dom. Yes.
Yeah, it's Billy.
So
Yeah.
he was doing a podcast, or he was doing an interview, and he was talking about the 9 and 5 and 5 and how the 5 dominates. The basketball. I mean, dominates the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, you don't feel like you're in the game if you don't get a shot or if
Right.
you don't touch the basketball, or those types of things. That's the 5%. But the other 95%, setting screens, rebounding, diving on the floor for loose balls, taking charges. That's the other 95% of the game. But most times the 5% of the game dominate the way you run back. Dominate your attitude, your mindset if somebody miss you, all that kind of stuff. And so I think that's what chemistry is being able to navigate those 95%, because the 5%, I mean, it is what it is. Of course, you need people to score, you need people to rebound and do all those types of things, but they don't see rebounding as getting a touch on the basketball. Like, hey man, that's a good way to get a
That's
touch.
literally what you're doing.
Right. Right. You know what's interesting? You bring that up because, and I don't want to spend too much time, but so we can move forward. But like, that is, to me, you just described Olivia Cochran to a T, because I think I've always seen potential in her, but I always wondered, could she ever like put it all together to where could she have a career beyond Louisville? And this is the first year where I can say, okay, she probably not a first rounder, but every team needs a do everything person. Every team needs a dog that can come off the bench. Maybe she kind of reminds me of a female PJ Tucker. Like, I'll come in, I'll grab your rebounds, I'll dive on the floor, I'll block some shots, and I'll shoot a few open shots if you need me to. That might be enough to get her a look for the first time. This is the first time I've seen her and said she now thinks she could play at the next level. What do you think, Ken?
Oh, will come in and do the dirty work. She can be the Charles Oakley of your team if you wanted to be. I mean, you don't want to run up on O, and so, but she hasn't. She low key O has added something to her game every year.
She has. She really has.
She added ball handling last year. This year, she's stepping out, making about the 15-foot jumper. She made a couple of those the other night, and when she doesn't get as much credit for adding to her game as other players would, but she does, and I do think she can play at the other level. She's an undersized big, and she may need to add a little bit more to her game as far as range goes, but she can get in there and she can bully her way in there and getting rebounds and getting steals and be, like you said, diving on the floor and doing all the stuff that a lot of players don't want to do.
Her Louisville equivalent is probably Montrezl Harrell, probably.
Yeah, I can see that.
Without the dunking.
Yeah, of course. But I can see that.
Yeah. So interesting for them. Same thing could be said about Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is exactly who you thought they were, and and arguably who they've always been, which I don't know if that's good or bad, because last year that got them to the Final Four. So I don't know if they are who they were, then that's not necessarily bad. They haven't taken any steps back, but I do wonder if they've taken steps forward, because they're being led by the same two people they've always been led by, Elizabeth Kitley and Georgia Amore, although I think Amore is better this year than she was last year. I think she's smarter this year with the ball than she was before. Up in her game to 7 assists is amazing. 17-7. Damn good play. Like, that's pretty impressive. But I'm curious to know if they're increased their game enough, in you guys' opinion, to not just get to the Final Four, but to complete the mission.
From what I've seen, I mean, I don't think they're there. And I know they're 17 and 16-4 right now, so not too many teams to beat them.
Right.
Like a few of the top tier teams in the ACC, but I'm still just not sure.
There's something missing, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, they're relying on her a lot.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's normal for the women's game. Like, one, two people you have to rely on because you may not have that depth. But I don't know. They just don't seem like the same team. And then again, this is like almost mid-season or around the cusp of being over the top mid-season. And you can hit your stride late. So it'll be interesting to see how they finish out this.
Which is
ACC
ironically what
season.
they've done the last 2 years. Like, they don't wow you in the regular season, but then at the end of the season, something clicks and then it just works. I don't know, the seeding paired to the whatever. I don't know. It just somehow comes together. But you're right, Charlie. They lean heavily on their top 3 players, which is Keatley, Amore, and is her name Eck? Matilda Eck, I think is her name. EKH I can't pronounce the last name, but I think it's Eck. But they're the bulk of the scoring on that team, and that's kind of how they've survived throughout the season so far.
I mean, when you have a player like Keatley who's going there and averaging 22 and 11 a game,
right?
And she's almost at a steal per game too, and she's getting 2 blocks per game. You can do a lot because it's not many teams with a big who can compete with that. And so I think in ACC play, everybody knows each other. I think with which Virginia Tech helps Virginia Tech, especially when it comes to tournament time, because they do play a different style than everybody else. When they get into the tournament, teams don't know, they're not expecting what Virginia Tech does, especially defensively, and it throws them off. And then you have someone like Keatley who can go in there and she may go off at 30.
Yeah,
and so that makes they're one of those teams that may or may not get to the ACC championship, but can make a serious run at the Final Four because of the way they play.
So you also mentioned, and again, I give Virginia Tech, I probably give them an AA minus. I mean, they're you can't downgrade them because they haven't done anything to, not be as good as they've been. So, I'd have to say about the same. So, but I also like North Carolina has been playing well. Syracuse has been playing well. Even Notre Dame, I'd say, has been playing well. So those are my also A students. The one surprise to me, if I'm being honest, is NC State. I didn't see that coming. Like, I didn't think they'd be this good, this fast, and they are a legitimate threat not only to win the ACC, but also to make the Final Four and maybe even the final game. They look dominant. Now, ironically, their only 2 losses are to Virginia Tech in a 1-point loss, just a 1-point loss, and to a weird loss to Miami, which I'm not sure what that was about. But they play a really strong. They have played a really strong brand of basketball. Now, they got a tough stretch in this second half of the season because coming out of this week, or was it tonight actually? It starts tonight for them. They play North Carolina, then they got Louisville, then they got Virginia Tech again, and then they got Notre Dame coming up, and another one against North Carolina. So they got we're going to find out exactly who the Wolfpack are in these next 10 games, but they're interested, Charlie.
Yeah, man, it's mid-season, so the top tier teams probably going to drop a few more here and there. And when you talk about NC State, they weren't the team that everyone's kind of talking about, being in the mix. But they have proven themselves, according to their record, proven themselves to be a contender.
Yeah.
And when you lose close games, that's a good sign, of a good team. And you're going to have some, bloopers here as far as, you're looking at bottom tier team and you end up losing that game. Those things do happen on occasions, but they've been able to minimize that that type of those types of games. So they could definitely be a contender. But like you mentioned, the stretch that they're coming up on will kind of help show us what
That
they're
was a devilish grin,
made of.
Charlie. Charlie, that's a devilish grin. Is that your way of saying that exposure may be on the way? It feels like
Yeah,
No. I'm just saying they got a good team. They got good teams that are going to be playing here coming up, and we'll see how they fare.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I'm just going back looking at their schedule. They do have some big wins. I mean, they beat UConn. They blew out Colorado, and so they
was very good. Yeah,
yeah, and so like they said, the only real head scratcher is that loss at Miami. But just if you dive into the ACC standings, nobody's really losing at home.
Right.
So,
right. Nobody's doing great on the road right now.
I mean, looking at the away records, I mean, I think the best away record is Louisville, Louisville, Syracuse, and NC State, and Notre Dame. With Notre Dame 7-1 on the road, but I think NC State is legit, but we're gonna really find out this coming week because, like I said, 3 out of the 4 are ranked teams, and the one that's not ranked is a road game at Pittsburgh, and so we'll find out a lot about them in the coming weeks.
I'll say this: they lean very heavily on their backcourt. Isaiah James and Sanaya Rivers, they almost combined for 30 points by themselves, and so like 30 points and 10 rebounds and almost 7 or 8 assists. So they need them to play well all the time. Huh?
Where did the Rivers girl come from?
That's a great question, Charlie. Charlie Ward. Let's see if we can do a quick deep dive because I'm not sure what her background is or not. She's homegrown, North Carolina.
But what school did she attend first?
I don't know. That I don't know.
I'm going to go out on a limb, given the previous history of young Coach Junior. She went to Florida State first. I'm just going out on a limb. I haven't looked at it.
Oh, she's a South Carolina girl.
She came from
South Carolina.
Yeah, she came from.
She's played under Don.
She came from. Exactly.
I wonder why she left. Well, because
she played as a freshman or something, whatever it was. She played a little bit, and you kind of saw flashes, very athletic stuff she's doing probably today.
Yeah.
But she wasn't going to play at that time, she wasn't going to play as much as she wanted.
Gotcha.
But because they're deep, they're a deep team, and so she ended up leaving the championship after the championship. I want to say she was a freshman when she left. She was. And went to NC State. But I always thought she was, when she got in the games, she was very good. Solid. She just didn't get enough. She didn't get a lot of time. But she would have probably been their starter there at South Carolina, not by now. But she wanted to branch out and be the superstar, I guess.
It doesn't appear to have hurt her. Like she's trending in the right direction as far as and she still got one more year. So
I'm not saying it hurt her. I'm just saying that she was.
Well, I bring it up for a specific reason, Charlie, because you know how we have collectively talked about transfers on this show. It sometimes it's because you don't want to compete, and then sometimes you probably need to make that move because it's prudent for you to make the move. This one kind of feels like you may have made the right decision because she may still be sitting the bench if you look at what South Carolina is running out there right now.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
No, I think she would have probably been in the starting lineup at this point.
Okay.
Because of her veteran leadership. I mean, she was going to be one of their main guys. She was, like I said, she's showing what she's capable of doing. And so this just gave her a better opportunity to showcase her overall skills.
So maybe this is a little impatient. She may be a little impatient.
Yeah, I mean, most definitely.
Okay.
It's very similar. I know we talk about transfers, but it's very similar to someone who was getting some time on the field or the court or whatever the case may be, but they wanted more.
Yeah.
They wanted more time. They weren't going to be patient enough to stay at the school they were. They're going to go somewhere where they feel like they can be an asset right now in a different way. And so, I mean, it's to each his own, but for her and anyone else, you know, I think she's taking advantage of it because now she's one of their main go-to people. So she's capable of doing it. And as we see, she's doing it well.
And then number 5 team in the nation right now. So, you know.
I say one thing that scares me just going through their stats for them is their assist to turnover ratio is not good.
Yeah, it's not the greatest.
Averaging just under 15 assists, but also averaging 13 and a half turnovers a game.
And I think the next
Nia Rivers is getting almost 3 steals a game. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think the next 2 teams are gonna push them harder than they've probably been pushed all year.
They've got to protect the ball.
They got to protect the ball. I want to ask you both a question. If the season ended today, would you give Hannah Hidalgo Player of the Year? 24 points a game, 26 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals. You can't stuff the stats better than that. As an individual player, that's about as good as it gets. And she's got her Irish fighting women's fight. Do they call them the women's fighting Irish? Or they just say fighting Irish.
They're just the fighting.
But you got them at number 14 in the nation right now, and almost. And I won't say almost single-handedly because honestly, Sonia Citron is doing. She's right there. She's got 18 points a game. She's giving you 4 rebounds, 2 assists as well. They got a solid backcourt as well. But I don't know if anybody's playing the PG better than Hannah Hidalgo right now.
I'm just amazed. I mean, they got swept by Syracuse already.
Well, I don't know what their size is. I don't know what the contribution.
And I'm not knocking Syracuse, but we were just talking about how hard it is to win on the road in this conference.
Yeah.
And they dropped one by 14 points to Syracuse.
But I think that, to me, that's probably they're guard heavy. Notre Dame is truly guard heavy.
Super guard heavy.
Yeah. So if they're guards, and that's where they want to beat you. They want to beat you off the dribble and shooting and the whole nine, which I understand that. I just don't know if their inside presence is as strong as it probably needs to be. So that's what's going to be interesting about them. Tournament wise, go ahead.
They're still missing like their other. She's out with a knee injury, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's still out.
Yeah. Is she expected to come back this year?
I thought she was, but if she's not back by now.
I was going to say, because I would think by now she'd be, because this is about the time she hurt herself, right? Like this was.
You know what? She got hurt that last game of the season.
Oh, was it the last game? It sure was. It sure was. So she's not in her year yet. She's not technically at her year yet.
All right.
But you know what? If you're Notre Dame, do you mess with it? Like, I mean, I know how good she is. In fact, she's incredible. But they got a good thing going. Like, do you mess with the chemistry? Do you mess with the continuity that late in the season? Charlie, I mean, you got one of those transcendent players. Do you mess with the continuity that late in the season?
I don't know. I think they're both point guards in a sense.
Right.
So it'll be, I don't know how they will work it out when she gets back. How that's going to work. Maybe they're playing together, but you're going to have to surround them with shooters because they're both, in a sense, very similar.
Yeah.
As far as looking to get their teammates involved. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But just from the little bit I've seen from Hidalgo, she is special. But she
Yeah.
definitely will win the freshman of the year.
Oh,
Yeah.
no
We do
question.
know
That's
that.
over. Yeah, that's over. Yeah, that's
Without
over.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, without
Yeah.
question. They do turn the ball over a lot, but for them though, I look at it a little bit differently because of the style they play.
Right.
You get up and down the court, and you're very guard heavy. You're gonna have turnovers.
You're gonna have to turn over. Yeah.
And so I look at it a little bit differently. It's still bothersome that they turn it over 15 times a game, but I mean, when you're out there, when you shooting threes like they are, like
They shoot at a high clip though. That's
Chicago's at 39 and Citron's right at 40% from behind the arc. So they got 4 players above 30% from three. So I think they're gonna be okay.
They're a sneaky tournament team because just like you said about Virginia Tech, that style of play in a one-game scenario, that's really hard to prepare for.
On the other end of the spectrum, though, for Notre Dame, though, when they meet a team that's heavy inside,
they're gonna get killed. They are going to get killed.
If a team has a good inside-out game, Notre Dame's gonna be in trouble.
They're gonna get killed. Charlie Ward, they're in your backyard. How's your mentee, Coach Brooke, doing? Are you happy where she is and where she's got your Seminoles? I have her in the B. That's my first B plus. Is the Florida State Seminoles?
Yeah, they didn't have a good showing. They had a tough stretch where they lost like 3 games in a row. One to Virginia, where young lady went off for like 35 or so points. She single-handedly beat them, and then they were up against Syracuse at Syracuse by like 18 or some points, and then that fair young lady went off. So that's where they've struggled. They were up on Virginia at home, and then they allowed them to come back in the second half to win that game. So they had a stretch where they were struggling. Lost 3 in a row, as I mentioned, and then they had a good road win the other day against Georgia Tech to get them back, on track. And then I think they have a week off of games. They didn't play this week. They may play Saturday or Sunday.
Right. Play Saturday.
But
Saturday in Miami. Sunday.
Yeah. So
Miami.
So I like. I mean, what's her name went off the other night? Anaya.
Yeah.
Anaya went off to be able to carry us, and that's what we need her to do. I mean, she was scoring and she was assisting, and then we just need to get others involved. Kiki, she is a special talent, but sometimes they don't give it to her or look at her. And then when they do give it to her, sometimes the games that I've watched, she's, missed quite a few easy, what we consider easy.
Now you said Kiki
layups.
Did you say Kiki?
Yeah. Yes.
Who is that? Michaela Thompson that you're calling Kiki?
No, it's number 21.
I have no idea who Kiki is.
Is this the
What's number 21's name?
Huh?
No, that's 22.
22.
I almost want to humble flex you. I almost want to humble flex you on that alone because I have no idea who Kiki.
And her name Kiki?
No, you're probably right. You probably know them.
It may not be.
You probably know them personally, but I don't know. I was like,
no,
who's Kiki?
Yes,
I think
it is nobody close.
Timpson. Her last
nobody obvious is Kiki.
Michaela Timpson.
It's Michaela. Okay, that's what. I was thinking. I said it's got to be Michaela Timpson he's talking about. Okay.
Well, they call her Kiki.
I've never called her Kiki, Charlie.
I'm just going off what I hear. They call her Kiki.
This. We may have to have a meeting after the meeting. I don't know if we're gonna do it today, Kendrick, but we're definitely gonna have a conversation after the show about that. That felt real humble flexes. I don't know.
That's right up there with Al.
Because nobody calls her Kiki. I don't know.
Yes. You go to the games. Everyone calls it
like
Kiki.
Kiki on the bet. I'll give them that, but that's that again.
They even call her that on the
Are they saying Kiki on the
during the
broadcast?
games.
Okay, all right. We're gonna start you out on that one. That's one on the line though. I'm gonna be honest with you. But
You know what?
Tell me what they call her.
You know what? After thinking about it, I'm going to side with Charlie on that. That might be
I'm not right. He swayed me back. I got to give you because maybe we're just not in the loop. I just hadn't heard Kiki. I was like, I don't see a Kiki anywhere on here. Okay. But listen, they're playing fine, and I think they're going to be fine. But I think you said the key thing. They got to have that inside-outside presence between Tanaya and Michaela. They can't, or Kiki. They can't not have her. I don't want to say take games off because I wouldn't say she takes games off. But Tanaya, I don't know if she feels the pressure of what is going on and what they're asking her to do. But she's got to embrace that and just be who she is because she can score on anybody. But she's got to do it. Because when she's not doing it, it's felt.
I mean, we need the Jetty to be a 3-point threat.
Sarah Bajetti. Yeah.
You know, can be hit or miss on games. We just need everyone to play their role well. And I'm sitting there looking at their schedule. They play Miami at home, at Pitt. They play Notre Dame, at Wake Forest, at Miami, Boston College, and then at Louisville. And so
that's not a bad schedule coming down the stretch.
Say it again.
That's not a bad schedule coming down the stretch. There's you could pad the win-loss column relatively well if you play to your potential if you're Florida State.
So that's what I was getting ready to say. We can't have any more slip-ups, like Virginia, where we lose to someone that's, at the bottom. But, between Notre Dame and Louisville, those are the two teams that could be toss-ups.
What do you think about the Duke
loss?
Rest of them? What do you think about the Duke loss?
That was one that you just have to chalk up as they played really well. We didn't play well at all. Once it got going downhill, it was going downhill really, really fast. Because Duke was making all types of shots. People that you didn't think make shots made shots.
Yeah.
Without being too dramatic, could that have been the rock bottom game for them? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, because there's a three that ended the 3-game losing streak. They won the very next time out because it could have been a thing of where things weren't clicking right and they finally hit rock bottom. Now they're bouncing back up to being back to where their potential is.
Yeah. I mean, potentially. I mean, you kind of need those. Every team kind of has one, whether it's a blowout or a tough loss where you were leading by big and then you end up losing that game. Everyone except for South Carolina, it seems. But everyone else has those types of games where, you feel like you should win those games in some form. But I could say that. I mean, they had to rebound and refocus, especially against Georgia Tech, to get the win. It was a good win for them. Then they had a week off, as I mentioned. So hopefully they can finish this stretch, at least losing one or two of the last, was that 6-7 games? So to finish the season going into the ACC playoffs, tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say this: as far as the rest are concerned, we mentioned Duke here. They should cherish that Florida State win with all their heart because their games down the stretch is brutal. It is. They may have the hardest stretch coming up. They got Pitt, Wake, Pitt away, and Wake at home. But then after that, they got UNC, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, Syracuse, North Carolina State, and then North Carolina again at the end of the season. The schedule makers did them no favors whatsoever,
No.
and they may go from a fringe bubble team that could possibly get in to not even having a shot to get in at all. Like it's a bad stretch.
Or they could go. This is a run if they can win out, which I know is asking a lot.
They could be number one seed in the country.
Be a number 1 or 2 seed.
Right, be number one seed in the country. Right, if they could win out, it'd be amazing. But that's rough.
How many of those games are at home?
Huh?
Let's see.
Did you say how many of those are at home? Is that what I heard you say?
4. They've got 4 home games left. So against the ranked teams, only 1, 2. 2 of the ranked team. 2 of those ranked teams are at home. 3 of those ranked teams are at home.
If they could split it and then win the ones they're supposed to, you might reward them in the bracket or in the tournament just because they did that. Like, you know what I mean?
They've got 5 home games. 1, 2, 3 of those are against ranked opponents.
3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. And so they play much better at home, as we've witnessed.
Yeah,
they're like 4-0 in the conference, I do believe, at home. So they have a chance, against some of these ranked teams that we consider one of the top in the ACC right now.
Yeah,
but they do have a couple on the road that could be bugaboos. But it's at North Carolina, which is a robbery game.
Yeah.
At Syracuse, the jury's still out on Syracuse. I know they're in the top tier right now, but I just don't know, if you slow that top guard down fair.
Yeah.
What will they be? And I think teams may start to figure that out. If they can slow her down and limit her production from a scoring and facilitating standpoint, who are they? And so that's going to be interesting to see how they finish.
Well, here's the thing about Syracuse too. Schedule-wise, they can kind of pad it a little bit too. Their toughest opponent is Louisville, NC State, and then a scrappy Duke team. And then Miami is, I guess you can throw them in there because they're fighting for their playoff lives. So, but it's a schedule that where they're already at 17 wins. So if they can get maybe 3 more somewhere, they definitely got 3 in there somewhere.
Yeah, especially when you factor in.
Yeah, that's probably enough to get them in. But realistically, taking a step back at the whole landscape, it's not unlikely that the ACC could get 8 teams in. Like that's
very realistic.
Yeah, that's not wild to say that. Yeah.
I mean, could you look at it? I mean, just going back, looking at the standings. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I mean, Louisville's in, Virginia Tech's in, NC State's in, Notre Dame's in. Most likely Carolina's going to get in. Like I said, Syracuse, they'll get over that 20-win threshold, so most likely they're in.
Right.
Florida State got a little bit of work to do, but I think they can get in. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Duke's going to have to do some work, but they can get in with the opportunities they have going down the stretch. They could get in. They'll be on a bubble team, but that's 8 teams right there.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think the X factor is probably the Duke, who emerges out of that Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami group, and can get hot a little bit, if you will, to grab 6, another 7 wins.
Because the way the ACC is this year, because with there being so many ranked teams, and like Jeff Walls has talked about this the last couple of weeks, even if you're at the bottom of the conference, you have opportunities, to get some big wins that can get you into the tournament. And so you can rattle off a couple wins at the bottom of the conference and be right back in the middle of the pack because the teams are not separate. separate.
Not if you Wake Forest.
Well, not if you're Wake Forest, Pitt, but like Boston College, Miami, like I said, Boston College, Miami, Georgia Tech, Duke, and Florida State. They can
make it interesting.
They could go on have a good week and be right up there in the mix. So yeah, I think you're definitely getting 7 and possible
8. Are the potential Final Four teams out of the ACC, are they the most obvious that we've already discussed? I'm very curious to see what NC State's going to become. I'm very curious. Is this real or not? Because in the conference, it looks like it's not real because they have the 2 losses. But in the nation, it looks like it's incredibly real because they only have 2 losses. So I'm very curious to see, are they the real thing?
I'm a big balance guy. And so I think out of the teams, I think NC State probably has the best shot. But I mean, not NC State, Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech, yeah.
Yeah, Virginia Tech. I think they have the best shot because they do have the inside outside, especially when you have a big in the middle that's as versatile as she is. I think Virginia Tech may have their best shot of a Final Four run. Outside of Louisville making another crazy run, which we've seen that plenty of times.
I'll say this, and this is a weird statement to make about this Louisville team. In some ways, they might be better simply because their defense travels. That's one thing that you can take on the road with you packing a bag and it'll and be successful. Their defense travels, and guess what? They have enough offense. It's not dominant, but it's enough to complement a very good defense, and that might be the formula. And I know that's not the traditional Jeff Walsh formula for getting to a Final Four, but he may have to try something a little different this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different team for him than he's usually had, and they are defensively. But at the same time, though, when I look at Virginia Tech against them, that's the type of team that scares me against Louisville because Virginia Tech could dominate them inside.
Right.
And so I do worry about that, and I like Virginia Tech's balance. And so I just think out of the teams that in the ACC, I just think Virginia Tech has the best shot at. Even though Virginia Tech doesn't score very many points,
no,
but they only give up 60 points a game. So I mean, like you said, defensively, they're right there. Them and Louisville are right there with each other as far as opponents' points against them. Virginia Tech gives up 59.9, and Louisville gives up 59.4. So yeah, you're gonna have to be physical to beat either one of them.
So the first one to 60 wins. First one to 60 wins. Well, we'll find out a lot about both those teams here in the coming weeks because they're on collision course to play on the 18th of February. But before we get to that, we're going to find out something tonight with Syracuse, and then this weekend with North Carolina State. We'll find out just how good they really are. So Louisville's got a nice little stretch coming up here too. Now this is they're not a foregone conclusion as to the number 1 seed in the conference, but it will be interesting to see if they can hold on to that top spot going down the stretch.
Syracuse tonight. They're at NC State on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll be huge. And then I'm saying, I mean, they're stretched too. They got Syracuse, NC State, Notre Dame, and Syracuse again right there in a row.
Right.
And then Virginia Tech, they're home against Virginia Tech on the 18th. So yeah, they've got a tough stretch too.
But Syracuse is at Louisville
tonight.
Right. Yeah.
They play up there on the 11th.
It'll be interesting to see. Like I said, Syracuse is that team to me that I don't know if they are. I don't say worthy, but I don't know if they're a top tier team.
That's understandable.
That's just me looking outside in, not really deep diving.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, just the fair young lady, she's very good, and she makes them go, which is what, like I said, most teams have a fair, that especially if they're at the top. That make them go, and they continue to make them go. I'm just curious to know, like, the back end of the season, will teams start making it tougher on her, and will that drastically make it tougher on those teams to be successful. So that's why your South Carolinas, who's normally, top tier team, they have depth. You never know who's going to beat you. And they all kind of play that way. So
Plus, you got to ask
see
yourself,
how
can you win?
they finish.
I was going to ask you, Charlie. Plus, you got to ask yourself, can you win with a 5'5" point guard being your top scorer? That's you're asking a lot. I mean, no disrespect to Daisha Fair. She's played phenomenal. That 20 points a game is clearly legitimate because she's doing it. She's averaging it, but she's a trap away from them not scoring at all. And the better team, that's what you're going to do because she's the bulk of their offense.
Yeah, Louisville's going to pressure her. And
it's going to be a long night tonight. It's going to be a long night tonight for her. So I don't know. I agree with you, Charlie. You got to be impressed by what they've been able to do so far, but sustainability, we'll see. We'll definitely see. All right, so that's our little report cards given out to the women. There's some fun, fantastic basketball being played in the ACC right now. We don't have as much time as I would have liked, but I did want to talk a little bit about the Tennessee lawsuit. That was interesting.
We say that next week because we'll be here for a long time.
You're probably right, Kendrick, because that's mind. The whole thing is mind-boggling. Let me just say this, and I won't get into it. I promise I won't get into it. I just need the NCAA, or I need the schools. Let me say it this way: I need the schools to probably get together and have a meeting and decide: do we need the NCAA or not?
Right.
No,
do we need them or not?
Not so much that. Let us rewrite these rules and policies that we have around transfer NIL.
To me, Charlie, I don't even think they need to rewrite them. I think they need to write them in the first place.
I was going to say, what are the rules? Because I don't know what they are.
There's something. There's some rules that they're going by because people are getting fined and suspended and all those things. There's something written.
Okay. See now, y'all. I didn't want to go here, but Dan, this is.
It really does feel like they're making it up as they go.
It's making it up as they're going along. Like, what are we talking about? Like,
I told you guys what this was.
You did.
This is a new regime coming in and trying to put their stamp on what they feel the NIL transfer portal should be, because the old regime was negligent in their making sure that there were no glaring unintended consequences when they put the transfer portal together, rules and regulations, and the NIL in at the same time, back to back. And it was like, hey, I'm just going to do this, throw my hands up, and let y'all figure it out.
And guess what, Charlie? I don't know if I have a problem. I was just going to say this real quick. I don't know if I have a problem with the new regime wanting to put their stamp on it, but can you please let the rest of us know what you're actually stamping? Because right now it just seems like you just
what is that stamp?
What is this new thing that you're doing? It just listen. I go back to
that's what I said. They just need to go and rewrite the rules. Just go ahead and say this is what we're going to be doing moving forward. And you can't be going back to 2 years from now when that
makes no sense.
Come on, man. Everybody's doing the same thing. Talking NIL, doing recruiting.
And listen, if we're not going to have an honest conversation about what Charlie just said, then let's leave it all alone. Because you are not going to convince me, not even a little bit, that there's not every school has not prearranged their NIL deal before the arrival of the student. So what are we talking about right now?
That's like the students are coming in asking what the NIL deal is going to be. That's part of the negotiation.
That's conversation one. That's conversation one. Like, what are we talking about right now?
Especially the higher the recruit is on the rankings. I mean, that's what the deal is. I mean,
I just feel like, by the way, shout out to the Sanders boys who just paid for their dad's new house. So let's stop. Can we just stop real quick with all the retroactive? Can we stop with all the retroactive stuff? Like, what are we talking about? We're not having real conversations. That's the frustration I'm having with the whole thing. But
shout out to the Sanders boys for loving their daddy so much. But come on,
I'm just saying it's
so weird.
They bought their dad a house. What? Wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
Are they? They haven't graduated yet, have they? No. Well, technically, Shiloh has graduated. Technically, he has graduated.
That's not NIL. They do well NIL wise.
They do extremely well.
But they probably bought that off their allowance.
That is the point. That is. We're not really sure what deal they are drawing from right now. It could be a personal Sanders account.
Which account is coming from?
Yeah, it's not really sure where that money is coming from, but it's just it's crazy right now, and it's not doesn't feel like it's gonna get any better anytime soon. So
right.
Anyway, okay. Shout outs, gentlemen. Who we shouting out today?
I've got to give a shout out to my sister. I know better to release a woman's age in a public forum. So I'm just gonna wish my big sister a happy birthday today.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't get in trouble.
I know better.
Right.
My sister is tiny, but she's strong. So happy birthday to my sister Rhonda.
She's mighty. There you go. Shout out to Rhonda. Okay. All right.
We'll give a shout out to our daughter Hope.
Hope.
She made the dean's list last semester. So shout out to her for her hard work and dedication. And just very proud of her.
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
But in a good way, though.
As a Hopi humble flex.
Yeah, that wasn't a bad one. That was right. That was a good one. That was a good humble flex. She more than earned that humble flex. That was awesome.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She gets that from her mom. That's her mom's side. That's definitely not me.
That's all mom. Okay. Yes. I want to give a shout out to my daughters, and this is like a preemptive shout out. Like they study the field of anime, and they're two Black girls who have decided that that's what they want to do for a career. So they study animation, this and the other. And this weekend they're going to their first ever Comic-Con together. And they're really excited. I'm excited for them. And you should see the energy of the house. It's very, exciting here.
Are they going in costume or?
They're all in. They're cosplay. They do the whole bit. And I'm gonna tell you something. Over the past 5 years, I've had to educate myself on this, and it's actually really a fascinating world. Because at first I thought they were just weirdos and what is this all about? But as you dive into it, especially from their perspective, they have a true understanding of this world and what it can be. But also, this is probably not a word, but I'm gonna use it as a word. The lucrativeness of being able to follow into this field.
Lucravity.
I was gonna say lucravity, but I wasn't sure that was a word.
I'm not sure either. It sounded good.
But it sounds good, doesn't it? Lucravity. But they understand how to turn this into something. And I see their artistic creativity blossoming as a result of it. So it's very exciting as a parent to see them diving into a world where young Black girls don't necessarily go, but they're doing it, and they're doing it at a high level, and they're truly committed to it. So it's very, very fun to watch them fall into this zone of genius. So I'm excited about it for them. Now I will not be joining them, though they've asked several times. Yeah, you should come with us. I can't come with you. The last thing you want to see is a 6'4" black man walking through dressed up like a gnome. Like I don't think that's my role. I think I'm supposed to stay out of that. Right. That's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to support you. And by the way, they will be starting this here in the next week or so, a new podcast. I'm gonna give them a shout out for that as well.
Right.
An anime-based podcast where they review black girls reviewing anime kind of thing. So that should be interesting and fun. So I'm excited for them. So shout out to my babies. There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Caleb likes anime.
Is that right?
Yes, he does.
It's actually way more popular than people think it amongst all cultures. Like I didn't realize
popular amongst all cultures. I mean, it's not just it's super popular amongst all
cultures. It's super popular. I'm like I said, I came in very ignorant and I thought it was just a very small sect of people. It is not.
I don't know much about it either. I'm ignorant about it either, but I do know it's super popular across age ranges.
Oh, it does not matter.
It's all over the place. Yeah, one of my best friends I grew up with, he's big into anime. So yeah.
And the one thing I discovered, I personally, obviously, I didn't realize this, but a lot of stuff we grew up on it, Charlie and Kendrick,
G-Force
was anime based. They had no idea. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, that's considered anime?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's anime," because it's the same companies and different stuff like that. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. So shout out to my babies. Okay, all right. So that's it for this week. We've had a good time. I hope you have too. We will come back and do it all over again. We didn't want to depress y'all with Lamar's thing. That was, I mean, you know. They've beaten him up enough this week. So
right. They couldn't wait. As soon as that clock hit 0, here come the pitchforks.
Oh, it was I kind of took a week off this week from watching TV because I just didn't want to hear the false vitriol of it's all his fault and he's a choker and this, that, and the other.
The good thing for you is Get Up has been on Dak Prescott watch since Wednesday. It was, I mean, I literally just turned in my head. I was like, I'll Get Up is talking about it's the Cowboys, and I literally turned around and looked at TV, and the lower third said, "Is Dak being treated unfairly in Dallas?" So they're not talking about the Super Bowl; they're just talking about the Cowboys.
Any scheduled to make $59 million?
Yes, and there's nothing they can do about it.
I'm just saying. We should all be treated so unfairly to make $59 million.
There's nothing that they can do. But he's got he won that last negotiation because he has a no trade clause, and so he's gonna get that money.
He's getting $59 million some way, somehow. So
right,
what are we talking about?
Right. So why are we talking about that before the Super Bowl? They're not even talking about the Super Bowl.
You got to fill up 2 weeks. Hey, it's either Dak Prescott or Taylor Swift, so you got to figure out something.
I can go out on a limb and say there's some stories that they could tell.
There are some. They just, you got to fill up a week and a half. So
as a long-suffering Cowboys fan, I get why everybody hates Dallas. All they do is talk about it, but it's not Dallas's fault.
No, it's not Dallas's fault. Not Dallas. Can't blame Dallas for that part. All right, people. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week. That's Kendrick Haskins over there. It's the great Charlie Ward, who is not only coaching great basketball players, but coaching kids to the dean's list. That's impressive.
That's his most impressive coaching job.
That's his most impressive coaching job by far.
Put that on the wife.
Yeah, that's all her.
Well, assistant coach. Assistant. Should I give you an assistant?
Charlie's a trainer.
Yeah. Whatever the lowest supporter. That's me.
I love it. We'll see you guys next week. You've been listening to Believe in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be heard. And join